Hello, Bob, and thank you once again for joining us. Relatively quiet week ahead, but what are the key stats and the key drivers that we should be looking out for when it comes to the major currencies?
It's a relatively quiet week ahead on the economic data front. For the US dollar, key stats include ISM, non-manufacturing PMI numbers, and weekly jobless claims figures on Monday and Thursday, and then wholesale inflation figures on Friday. Those will be the key areas of focus. Expect market sentiment to improve should jobless claims continue to decline. For the euro, busy week ahead. We've got Eurozone unemployment numbers in the early part of the week, then focus shifts to service sector PMIs midweek, and then the German economy through the second half of the week, where we'll be looking at trade data, industrial production, and factory orders. For the pound, it's a quiet week. All we've got is service PMI and composite PMI numbers. These are finalized numbers for March, and construction PMIs. Expect the service PMI number and any revisions to have a material impact on the pound in the week.
And let's turn our attention now to the commodity currencies. What can we expect from the Aussie, the Kiwi, and the Loonie in the week ahead?
For the Loonie, relatively quiet week. Midweek, we've got IV PMI and trade data to consider. Expect the trade data to draw the greatest interest. And at the end of the week, the key driver for the Loonie will be employment figures. Obviously, the market's going to be looking for continued improvement in labour market conditions. For the Aussie dollar, it's a particularly quiet week on the economic data front. There are no stats to consider. However, the RBA is in action on Tuesday. While no moves are expected, expect the RBA rate statement to be a key driver. For the Kiwi dollar, no stats to consider either. That leaves the Kiwi dollar in the hands of market risk sentiment and yield differentials through the week.
So relatively quiet week for the commodities as well, but keep an eye out for that Loonie and see what happens in the week ahead. Let's switch our attention now to our Asian giants, China and Japan. What can we expect from there? What key stats should our traders be looking out for?
For the Japanese yen, quiet week ahead. Finalized service PMI numbers for March due out in the early part of the week. Don't expect too much influence there. We will expect plenty of interest in household spending figures. However, those are due out midweek. Obviously, household spending has been particularly dire and is unlikely to improve anytime soon. For the Chinese yuan, we've got service sector PMIs. These are the Caixin numbers in the early part of the week, and then wrapping things up will be inflation figures at the end of the week. Recent PMIs and so on have pointed to a marked pickup in inflationary pressures, so expect plenty of interest there.
And finally, geopolitical risk. China, big in the news. Trade agreement with the US, nuclear deal signed with Iran. How will the markets react to that news?
On the geopolitical risk front, well, we're still looking at China really, and its actions within the Asian region, and obviously relations with the US and the West. So that would be the key area of focus for the markets in the week. Obviously, there's the Iran nuclear agreement. China just signed an agreement with Iran, a 25-year deal to negotiate. So obviously that puts the cat amongst the pigeons, as it were, particularly in the Middle East. So how the US respond and US foreign policy will be the main areas of focus.
Well, that's all we have time for today, Bob. Thank you so much for joining us and giving us your input. I'll see you again next time. That was the week ahead with Bob Mason of FX Empire. But in the meantime, keep up to date with all the latest developments in the market by following us on all our social media outlets.